Welcome to literary and jury charge practice. Let's start out with this short, rather short narrative answer. Get our fingers warmed up. Ready? Here we go. It was a truck. The guy stopped in front of the car, and the way he was positioned and the way I was, his headlights were going sort of like over the top, and there was nothing but a clear space, and I had to stay there. I thought he was going to get out and check the car and everything, and maybe grab the keys. He didn't do nothing. He just sat there for about, 30 seconds, and then he started backing up over the hill and went down over the other side. So when he was gone, I went back down to the car and got in, and then just, accelerated on up over the hill. It took me almost no time to do that. And when I got over to where I could see him, he had pulled back far enough where I could get onto Highway 99. I could see him. He had his car over on the white line that marks the side of the road. You might say his tires were on the dirt. His strange behavior gave me cause for real concern about what his intentions were. Right, now let's try some jury charge practice. And this is a criminal jury charge. Ready? Here we go. A confession is a statement made by a defendant other than at his trial, in which he has acknowledged his guilt of crimes for which he is on trial. In order to constitute a confession, Such a statement must acknowledge participation in the crimes as well as the required criminal intent. A statement made by a defendant other than at his trial is not a confession, but an admission whenever the statement does not by itself acknowledge his guilt of the crimes for which he is on trial, but which tends to prove his guilt when considered with the rest of the evidence. Evidence of an oral admission or confession of the defendant ought to be viewed with caution. Right. Let's get back to some literary material, and we'll try this technical paragraph. Ready? Here we go. A heavy-duty dump truck needs to be a tough partner in heavy construction jobs. Possible trouble areas need extra attention to help cut the downtime. The dashboard in the cab is designed so that the gauges and switches can be removed from the front and placed in the cab. This gives quick and easy replacement in the field and avoids a trip to the shop. Circuit breakers are mounted next to the steering column for easy access. There is no loose wiring behind the dashboard. The wiring has been placed in grooves to the rear of the dashboard. Excuse me. All right, now let's get back to our jury charge. Ready? Here we go. You are the exclusive judges as to whether an admission or a confession was made by the defendant and whether the statement is true in whole or in part. If you should find that such a statement is entirely untrue, you must reject it. If you find that it is true in part, you may consider that part which you find to be true. No person may be convicted of a criminal offense unless there is some proof of each element of the crime, independent of any confession or admission made by him outside of this trial. The identity of the person who is alleged to have committed a crime is not an element of the crime, nor is the degree of the crime. Such identity or degree of the crime may be established by an admission or confession. Remember that your first duty is to determine that a crime has been committed. You must do that before you can consider whether the defendant made a confession or admission and whether such admission or confession is true. All right, now let's try this short narrative answer. Ready? Here we go. John wasn't aware that he hadn't received the information on time. The company wasn't checking on the mail properly and didn't know that it hadn't been sent out on time. We couldn't do anything to hurry things up. John couldn't help it because he wasn't informed. The company shouldn't have been upset about it. John hasn't been remiss before. I can't help feeling he shouldn't be blamed. All right, now we'll try this technical answer. Ready? customers always wanted to see performance under ambient conditions that were significantly different. These were temperatures of minus 40 degrees Fahrenheit up to as high as 85 degrees centigrade. So what we did was put a heater and refrigeration system on that apparatus that either cooled or heated the gas. The question was, would a test into a tank that already contained 1 atmosphere of air be significantly different than a test into a tank that was evacuated? I somehow didn't think it would, but we had to prove it. Some of the words that you may want to add to your challenging word list, because I know there were a few in here. Let's see, we had Fahrenheit, centigrade, apparatus, refrigeration, so some words to maybe work on. All right, let's try this narrative answer now. Looks like it might not have as many challenging words. Ready? Here we go. I came down the hall to take a letter to the main office. I was not particularly rushing because there was no need to. I did note that the floor had been waxed because I did say to Mr. Mason that the floor looked very nice. He said that he wondered why they had waxed the floor on Tuesday. They usually did it over the weekend. As I turned the corner, my feet just went out from under me, and the next thing I knew, I was on the floor. I knew right away that something was wrong with my arm. There was instant pain. I must have fallen on it because it was twisted behind me. My elbow and shoulder hurt, and I had hot pains going all the way up and down the whole arm. I just sat on the floor and did not do a thing. I could not move. I felt shocked and hurt. Then Mr. Mason ran over and tried to help me get to my feet. It was hard to get up, and I felt weak all over. All right, and that will conclude our literary and jury charge practice.